What's going
Hey
on?
guys, how are you, Kirby?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. My name's Jake. I'm with
What's up, Jake?
It Means History, IMH. And if you don't mind, we're asking you a few questions here. So yeah,
Yeah, no problem. Go fire away. Thanks for having me on doing this.
yeah, sure. Thanks for being here. First off, obviously a crazy situation going on with this pandemic and everything. In terms of how it's affecting baseball, how are you kind of staying in shape, staying prepared during a situation where you really don't have a timeline in terms of when you might be back?
It's a little odd. I think first and foremost you just kind of got to put it all into perspective and understand that this is something that nobody's ever really gone through before. So you kind of just you try and do your best, find friends to throw with, and you still try and take care of your body and stay ready. But first and foremost, I think you're hoping that everybody else is staying healthy also.
hmm So, in terms of connecting with your teammates during this time, you mentioned, everyone's sort of in their own place. You're finding some friends to throw with. How are you guys as a team staying connected after you kind of broke up after the start of the spring?
Well, I'm in Arizona, and there's a lot of people in San Diego. A lot of people broke camp as if they would and went to San Diego because they have leases and stuff on houses. And I know everybody in San Diego's in touch. And as far as the guys here in Arizona, we've connected, and we've been able to find like our spots to work out with each other, and
hmm
and try and follow all the necessary guidelines with distancing and all of that, and make sure everybody stays healthy. And but we're all in group chats, and we're all connected, and we're a close team, so we don't go a few days without talking to everybody.
hmm That's good. Um, in terms of you personally, um, one of the things I'm not sure everyone might know about you is that you're actually from Hawaii. What role did that sort of upbringing play as you sort of carve out a career?
I think a lot. I think it's still a huge part of who I am. I think everything I've kind of learned growing up and the way I've matured as, a human being is part of that. It made me really close to my family. Hawaii, every family is probably the number one most important thing anybody talks about over there. And, I still believe in that today. And, I kind of had a lot of values that I learned at a young age that I still try and use today.
Awesome. Your brother Ty had a bit of a major league career himself. He's older than you. He was drafted in the late '90s. What impact has he had on your career? How has he kind of helped you out as you sort of get the hang of things?
A lot, honestly. He was probably my pitching coach from when I was 12 years old. And, the cool thing about our relationship, I think the last few years, it's more, he hasn't been a coach anymore. He's turned into a fan. And,
hmm
is now that he's always been a huge supporter, but now he's one of the biggest ones. And, I get text messages from him all the time, and it's never like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. It's more of a good job. And, that was fun to watch, or vice versa. And, it's just been fun to kind of see how the relationship has changed over the years. I mean, if I have a question, I can still ask him, and he'll give me an honest answer at all time. But I think for the most part, the relationship's changed from going from a coach and a big brother to, a fan, which is, to me, is
hmm
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of a relationship that not everyone can say they have. In terms of your career, you were drafted by the Red Sox back in 2006, and you chose to go to junior college out in California. had some injuries there. Can you talk about sort of the challenges that those presented and working your way back eventually to the draft again in 2009?
Yeah. It's a junior college in Arizona. It's called
Okay.
Yavapai. It's a little north of Phoenix. But anyway, I got drafted out of high school. It was they did things called draft and follow when I was in high school, which means that the team that drafted you gets their rights all the way through next year up until about 2 weeks before the draft. And so when they drafted me, they kind of had the idea that I would go to junior college and they would kind of, see how I panned out and have a chance to sign me before next year's draft. And unfortunately, I blew out my elbow and missed the entire year and kind of never heard back from them. Took me 2 years to make it back. And, when I did, I pitched in 2009 and I went undrafted. I signed a free agent contract a few days after the draft and just, I just kind of went. I guess I just started and went for it, and it all worked out. And was it ever easy? I don't think anything that's kind of worth it is supposed to be easy. But it was, it's kind of paved the way for where I'm at now. It's never been as smooth sailing as you'd want it to be, but it's been awesome, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, to that end, a good start once you finally broke into the league with the Rays. Bounced around a little after that. You went to Cleveland. They eventually dropped you, sent you on waivers, picked up by the Yankees, pitched there for a year, one game with the Angels. What was it kind of like to be all over the map and not be able to find a solid footing right away?
It was tough, but you it's a business, and you understand that if you pitch good, you're going to stay somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
realistically, I didn't pitch real well for 2 or 3 years, and it happens. Teams have to make decisions, and when you don't make that choice hard for them, usually you're looking for another team. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately for me, I ended up in a spot in San Diego where I love, and it's worked out really good for me. And along those lines of having those seasons, I learned a lot of lessons. I learned, I made some adjustments because of those seasons, and it's kind of turned out to the way it is now.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that sort of changed when you finally made your way to San Diego was the development, really, of your splitter. The coaches kind of wanted you to increase your usage with that pitch. How has that had a positive role in this change that we've seen with you since you joined the Padres?
I think it's, I've always had I guess a decent fastball where guys, had a hard time squaring it up. But if you throw it all the time, people figure out a way to hit it, and that's kind of the way I was going. I didn't really have a good slider that I could rely on all the time. I mean, when it was good, I was able to get outs, but when it was
Mm-hmm.
off and it wasn't doing very good, it would get hit and get hit hard and, usually leave the park, and that's a run or two. And, I think the difference with the split is that, when it's off, it's still able to kind of stay in the park and,
Mm-hmm.
not get as hit as hard as the slider was. And I think that's key. And when it's good, it's a swing and miss pitch that complements my fastball pretty good. And I think that's that helps a lot.
Last year, you had a great year, led the league in saves. You were an all-star. You were a member of the first all-MLB team. What do sort of accolades like that, what do they mean to you?
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure, a few years down the road when I'm done, I'll look back on it and I'll be like, that was pretty cool. I'll be able to tell my kids or have them ask me about it. It was a good year for me personally. It was frustrating year for the Padres, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of the most important. I think that's why everybody plays the game is you want to win and you want to win World Series and championships. And it's great to have the individual accolades, but I think a lot of people would probably change them for a chance to play in the World Series or win
Mm-hmm.
championship.
Mm-hmm. You also, in 2018, you went to Japan and played in the MLB AllStar Series. How was that?
That was awesome. That was that was a lot of fun. I think I wish I would have pitched a little bit better, but I didn't. You can't take it back. But it was neat to go to Japan. See the cities, the different cities, see their style of baseball, and just to see the culture and be around the people. The people were awesome. They were extremely nice, and it's one of those trips that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And I had a great time, and maybe one day I'll get to do it again.
Were there any guys you got to sort of know better on that trip that you might not have connected with otherwise?
Yeah, I think kind of everybody on that team. The Dodgers guys you kind of played against for a long time, and you never really talked to them. You got a chance to kind of speak to them for a while, and by the end of the 11 days, you've had multiple conversations with a lot of people. So you definitely build some relationships that, so far they've lasted. And, every time we see each other, we say hi and check in and see how everything's going. So, that's one of the neat things I think is the relationships you get to build with people that you probably wouldn't otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. You sort of carved out a role going into this year, and of course, who knows when it will really start as the Padres closer. Have you given any thought to sort of following up in the footsteps of some of the Padres closers before you? Probably three of maybe the 5 or 6 best guys ever at that spot: Raleigh Fingers, Goose Gossage, Trevor Hoffman.
Yeah, I mean those guys are in a league of their own. They did it well, and they did it well for a very long time. And
Mm-hmm.
I've only really been a closer for a year now, and I had last year was really my first year as going into the season as a closer, and that's cool. And I hope I can do it for as long as they did and be successful as they were. And in doing that, I want to do it on a good team, and I think we have the makings of being able to do that, and it's just one of those things that I don't like comparing myself to those guys because they like
Mm-hmm.
I said, they did it for a very long time. Trevor's a Hall of Famer. They're all Hall of Famers. And if 5 years down the road people want to say that, and I've done some pretty good things, that's a different story. But right now it's just about going out there and trying to win as many games as you can.
Yeah, Trevor Hoffman's been around the last couple of years since you joined up in San Diego. What has it been like sort of having him around during the spring and having his sort of mentorship?
It's cool. I think the neat thing is now is I think you have a comfortable relationship with each other, and we've known each other for a few years now. So it's just really neat to talk to him as a human being, and kind of have casual conversations about stuff that's not even baseball related. I think that that to me is neat because you have a guy that I kind of call a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
he's when it comes to baseball, anything you ask him is it's spot on, and it's awesome. He's also he's got 3 boys. He's a dad, so sometimes we'll chop it up and talk dad stories and different things like that, which is cool. But I'm not the only person that enjoys having him around. Basically the entire team loves having him around, and he's one of those guys that is just an absolute staple in the organization, and it's really neat.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly one of the greatest ever at the position. What was that change like for you, going from more of a middle innings guy to being someone who's pitching in the 8th, ninth at the end of games?
I think it was personally, I think it was a pretty easy transition. I think when you're going to get the ball in the 9th inning when you have a lead, it's a lot easier to prepare. Um, I think when you're like the 6th, 7th, 8th inning guys, you kind of always have to be ready for the inning before because you don't know what's necessarily going to happen. When you're a closer, you go in the 8th inning sometimes, but not often. But if you're an 8th inning guy, it seems like you go into the 7th inning quite a lot. Or if you're a 7th inning guy, you go into the 6th inning. So I think, those 3 jobs, the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, the game's usually on the line, and there's usually a middle of the order coming up, and sometimes there's guys on base, and you got to go into the game, and that's when it's like that's when, it's pretty tough because you got to be on your A game right from the start. In the ninth inning, you have to get 3 outs for your team to win, and that's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think being able to prepare for it a little bit easier or a little bit better, it's a different feeling, and it's a different kind of calming in a way. It sounds weird, but usually when you go into the game in a seventh or eighth inning, it seems like there's always fire on base or something like that, and you got to put it out. But for the most part, I enjoy the ninth inning a lot.
As someone who's kind of played some different roles in the bullpen, what sort of wisdom do you have for some of the guys who are coming into the games before you? What can you sort of tell them about?
I think everybody's pretty locked in before they go in. I think everybody's got their own little routine, so nothing much before anybody goes in. Maybe after, people will just talk, and it has nothing to do with me. I think just being teammates and stuff, you talk about the game and just what you're feeling, how, what was working, what wasn't. But for the most part, we have a really, really talented bullpen, and most of the guys they don't need a whole lot of help, and
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times I'll ask them questions about me personally and stuff like that. So it goes both ways, and it's a very fun group to be a part of, and I think that's that's the neat part.
Yeah, definitely. Going into this year, one of the big changes in the offseason for the Padres was a new look,
Yeah.
some new logos, new uniforms. What do you think about those?
I like the brown and yellow. I like the brown, yellow, and white. I really do. Everybody has blue. I don't think anybody wears brown, maybe for a reason, but I personally, I do. I do like it. I think, our white and brown pinstripes are really nice. I think they're a pretty clean look, and I think over time people will get used to it and start liking it.
Mm-hmm. Who has the best style on the team?
Ooh, probably Haas. I gotta go with my man
Mm-hmm.
Haas.
Just a few more questions. You had a great year last year. How do you sort of repeat that this year, especially with kind of the uncertainty of when things will actually pick back up again?
I don't think you can go out and try and repeat certain years. I think you just kind of, you stick to your mindset and you stick to your routine. And, you play 162 games. I'm probably going to get anywhere from 60 to 75 appearances, whatever it is. And, you just you try and stick to your routine, and whatever the numbers say after those appearances or those games or what they say. And, at the end of the year, if you stand up you look up at your numbers and they're close to what they were the year before, that's that's a bonus. But it would be stupid for me to sit here and say that I'm going to try and lead the league in saves again and have a sub one and do all of that, because that's just kind of added pressure that you
Mm-hmm.
don't really need. You don't control any of that. You just kind of control what you can do. You control your preparation, and how hard you try out on the mound and how hard you compete, and the results are results. That's just kind of my mindset about going into everything.
You mentioned a couple times your routine. Do you have anything special that you do before games or before you go in? I know some guys like to watch the whole game from the bullpen. Sometimes closers will only go out there a little later, mid-game. What are you doing before you go on?
Yeah, I usually hang out in the clubhouse for what's usually like the first 3 innings. I kind of I get in the hot tubs and stuff like that and get the body warmed up. Yeah, get a stretch, do anything I need to do to kind of get my body ready. That way I'm not sitting down in the bullpen for, 7 innings without moving.
Mm-hmm.
At least, by the time I go down to the bullpen in the fourth inning, my body's at least a little bit warm, and I'm only sitting for, 2.5 innings. And when I start getting ready to move around and, start getting my focus and start trying to get locked in, it's it's a little bit quicker and a little bit easier for me after my body's been a little bit warm from getting in the tubs and stuff like that. I think it's a routine is something you develop over time, and
Mm-hmm.
this is just something that's been working for me.
We talked a little bit earlier about sort of this situation right now, and nobody knows really when baseball or anything will start back up again. You mentioned you're in Arizona. Are you with your family? What kind of things are you doing to sort of keep yourself entertained and just to pass the time?
Yeah. I mean, I'm here with my wife, my two kids. My two kids keep me more than entertained. They're 2.5 and 1.5, and they run around all the time. Fortunately, I have a pretty good sized yard here in Arizona that they can run around in, and I chase them around and just let them be kids, and that's basically how we've been killing time. There's not much that you can do. You just keep in contact with my family back home in Hawaii and make sure everything's going okay and that they're doing well. And so far everybody's good. So that's all you can hope for.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Kirby, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks so much for coming on. Once again, guys, I'm Jake from It Means History. Kirby, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, Jake. Take care, man.
Thank you. You too.